All right, 97.7 Outlaw Radio FM listeners, you already know what time it is, and right here, right now, we actually have multi-platinum hip-hop producer. We got the one and only Self-Service, also known as Lord Self, right here, live on the line, man. How are you doing this evening?
I'm all right, brother. How are you tonight?
Doing best I can possibly be down here in Canada, man. Just dealing with some very, very late April snow. It's actually terrible. I was really hoping for summer, but we're still on the winter tip of things.
Well, you should be down here in Miami with me, man. It's summer all year round.
Oh man, I gotta say, if I was down in Miami, I'm telling you, I don't think I'd ever come back to Canada, man. You know, I love Canada, but I hate the winter, man. I definitely need some palm trees in my life.
Yes, I made the move from New York a while ago, and I'll never go back. I'll go back to work and visit, but I'm gonna live here from now on.
But also, man, going back to the New York days, man, I want to take you back to where everything all started, man. Where you actually started producing in the year 1994, where I actually read that you actually built a studio with your friend Gavin. The studio was actually built in Salt and Peppa's house. I was wondering if you can actually tell our listeners the story behind this ordeal, and of course, what actually made you and your partner start up this phenomenal studio.
Well, my story starts. I was getting in and out of trouble when I was younger. So I did some time and then came home from doing the time in 1993. And then Gavin, my friend Gavin Ray, he had a child by Salt and Pepper. So they owned a club in my neighborhood. They had a club in my neighborhood. And then Gavin seen me starting to get in trouble. So Gavin was like, look, I want to keep you from going back to prison. So look, just do security and bodyguard for Salt and Pepper. When I came from prison, I weighed like 300 pounds. I'm 6'5", so I weighed like 300 pounds back then. So I started out by being her security guard, private security guard, and then she wanted to build a studio inside her house in Long Island in the basement. So me and Gavin and a couple of other dudes, Freedom Lives and stuff like that, got together and we started building her studio in her house. We filled it with all kinds of equipment back then. Back then it was reel-to-reel. It wasn't even computers back then. It was the SSL board and the reel-to-reel machine. So we got the studio all built up, and we was working. She was working on the Shoop record. Like, actually, my friend Twani, he's the dude that's on the Shoop record, that's rhyming on the Shoop record. And we was all in the studio working, and she gave me, it was an ASR 10 in the studio that nobody never used to make beats and none of that. So she told me to take the keyboard home and see if I could figure it out. And I'm like, you for real? She's like, yeah. She said, take it home. Nobody uses it. See if you can figure it out and whatever. So I took the keyboard home with no manual, no nothing, just the plug in the keyboard, the ASR 10. And that was the best thing ever happened to me in my life. From that point, I just started picking at it and figuring it out, and I started sampling from cassette decks. Because all we had was cassette Walkmans back then, and turntables. So I was sampling from cassette tape into the ASR 10. I made a couple of beats, then I took them out to my neighborhood on the block and played them for some dudes in the car, some of my friends in the car. They said, yo, you kind of nice with this beat thing. So me and Gavin was then in Harlem at one time, and then Coco Brothers, Smith and Wesson, was walking by, and they heard some of the beats playing, and they invited me to the studio, and that's, me and Gavin went there, and that's when we did Black Trump for Smith and Wesson, the Coco Brothers, and then from there, my career just skyrocketed. From there, I went from Smith and Wesson to Onyx, to Ja Rule, to Jay-Z, to LL Cool J, to Music Soul Child, Method Man, and so forth. So I've been blessed to have a beautiful career. I chanced on it. I never knew I wasn't musically inclined, and God put me in that position where, it was a beautiful position. Things just worked from there for me. And now I got 25 platinum albums under my belt, and some more accolades.
And also, as well, as you mentioned Onyx a few moments ago, you have also done producing for Onyx and, of course, Sticky Fingers as a solo artist on numerous occasions. I was wondering if you could
Yeah.
actually tell our listeners a bit more about that experience, and, of course, what was it like just being able to work alongside one of the biggest groups within hip hop?
Onyx is like my brother, Federer and Sticky and Sonny. And, I was blessed to be around when DS was around. Um, so, like, even to this day, we're still close. Great experience because we all from Queens. So after I did the Smith& and Wesson thing, I was invited to come to their studio, and that's how they picked Shut 'Em Down. And it ended up being their single, their album single, and the name of the album was Shut 'Em Down, the last album they did for Def Jam. And on that album, I produced like 5 or 6 songs on that album. One of them, I was blessed to work with Big Pun. Big Pun was on one of the records, and one of the records is one of DMX's first appearances. So that was a wonderful album. We had fun like hell making that album. Then, because of our relationship with that album, then Sticky, when he did his solo album, I was there for Sticky, so I did about 5 or 6 songs on Sticky solo album, Black Trash, which was like an autobiography, like a book and an album at the same time. But I'm very close with them to this day, and, they have blessed a great experience messing with them.
And I have to ask, when you brought up Big Pun a few moments ago, I have to ask, what was it like just actually watching his studio presence? Because I've heard stories that he was an absolute lyrical machine well in the studio.
Yeah, he was awesome. Like, absolutely awesome. Like, the thing with Big Pun, the way he rhymed, he had to do a lot of punching, but the way he put it together, when I seen him do it in the studio, when we did that record, the Onyx Shut 'Em Down remix, and the way he did that and punched, I was there. I seen him, I was witnessing it with my own eyes. It was amazing, man. It was amazing.
And I gotta say, definitely rest in peace to Big Pun, man. Sometimes I sit back and listen to his albums and just say to myself, what would hip hop be like if he is still here today, man? Because I gotta say, one of the best MCs, me personally, I've ever heard.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely could put him. If he was still here, I don't know, the rap game wouldn't be the same. Just like, God bless the dead, Biggie and Big L, too. If them dudes are still around in the game, it'll be a whole nother story. But rest in peace, Big Pun. And Big and L.
And also, as well, in the year 1999, you actually produced one of DMX's biggest songs titled What's My Name from his Then There Was X album. I was wondering, how did yourself and DMX originally get connected? And of course, can you tell our listeners the story behind this recording session?
Well, I got connected through DMX, through Irv Gotti, through Murder Inc. So when I was doing the Onyx album, the Shut 'Em Down album, Irv was the A&R. Irv Gotti was the A&R for that project, for the Shut 'Em Down album. And he was the A&R at Def Jam. When me and Irv and Chris Gotti grew up together as kids, but he never knew I made beats. Because I had went to prison, like I said, and came home, and in our neighborhood, he was younger. Me and Chris was more friends. But when Onyx and them took the single, Shut 'Em Down, to me, he said, "Oh, that Self made that beat." And then we figured it out that like he was close with me. So he was then bringing DMX into the game. That's when Get At Me Dog came out, and with the Onyx Shut 'Em Down, all that was around the same time era. And then at that point, he picked out, I went to play some music for Chris, and I played some tracks for Chris, and I was actually skipping over that beat because I didn't like the beat, the DMX What's My Name beat. I didn't like it, so when Chris started to play, I said, no, I'll skip over that. He was like, no, go back to that. And Chris heard it and then said, this is the one, and he played it for Irv. Then Irv actually said, okay, we're going to use that beat for DMX. What's wrong? So Irv said that he was going to take it to the DMX thing. Now, he took it to the session. I was never in the studio when X laid it. So, all hail to Irv for actually taking the beat there and getting the placement for me. So Herb actually placed it for me, and it was like one of the biggest records. But that's a whole nother story in its own. But the way I got hooked up with the X thing was definitely through Herb got it and Chris got it.
And when you actually mentioned a few moments ago how you originally heard the beat and you were kind of skipping it, was that the beat that you skipped? Was that the actual beat they originally used for "What's My Name," or did they actually switch that up?
No. It's the exact same beat, exact same.
And from my understanding as well, I think that single, and I could be wrong, was like five times platinum, man. I got to say, it's a huge song.
Yeah, on its own, and then the album went platinum. And that's one of my biggest achievements was that record to this day. To this day.
And I got to say as well, the plaques are definitely going to keep coming in from that album because I think people are still actually buying up that particular DMX record, man, because it has so many amazing songs on that project, man. So it's going to keep racking up those plaques.
Right, and the DMX "What's My Name" record is like a universal record. The way X put it down is like "What's My Name," so a lot of people use it for basketball, boxing. A lot of sync licensing go along with it too, like sports, all that kind of stuff, because of the actual lyrical content. Like, "What's my name?" But the horns and stuff, I played that myself. The beginning was a sample that I looped, and then I just played the I could play that. I could make that beat over today by myself, right this second, in 5 minutes. I remember it that much.
And also, as well, in the year 2002, you actually produced the Bone Thugs and Harmony song "Money Money." I was wondering if you can actually tell us a bit more about that, and of course, what was it like actually just working with Ruthless Records for that particular project?
Yeah, I did Money Money, and then after that, I went on tour with Bone Thugs and did a whole album on Busy Bone and Lazy Bone called The Bone Brothers. I produced an album, but I got hooked up with them and Ruthless through Steve Lobel, who's a very close friend of mine, and he plugged me. He was managing Bone Thugs at the time, and it's crazy because I met them in Philly, and I think it was All-Star Weekend or something like that back then, and I was in the hallway of my hotel, and I didn't even really know who Bone Thugs was, and then Wishbone was downstairs. I was drunk. Wish was a little drunk, and I'm sitting in the chair in the lobby. He's sitting in the other chair in the lobby. I don't know who he is, but he's Wishbone. So me and him start drinking together and talking, and the next thing you know, me and him built a relationship. And then from there, he told everybody, I told him I make beats, and I had produced the "What's My Name" record and all the rest of that. And then that's how I got plugged in, and then they flew me out to L.A. to meet Eazy-E. God bless his dad. I met Easy, worked with Tammy and everybody who had Ruthless for the Money Money record. I'm actually in the video for the Money Money record. We shot that here in Miami back in the days. Yeah, that was a long time ago. We shot the video for Money Money here in Miami. And then after that, I was blessed enough to go on tour with Bone Thugs and do a whole project on them called The Bone Brothers.
And also as well, I actually saw via IMDb, and I do know when it comes to IMDb, some things are a little off on this site, I've noticed. But when I saw this, I absolutely had to ask it. I read that you actually did additional voices for the iconic video game Def Jam Vendetta. I was wondering, can you tell us a bit more about that? And of course, what was it like just doing voiceover work for a video game?
That was that was the very first Def Jam Vendetta. I didn't even realize, how it was going down. Like, I was so a staple in the 90s. I was a staple in Def Jam. I'd go into Def Jam whenever I want because I worked on Music Soul Child album. I worked on Jaws, the Onyx, the DMX, everything. So, I was really in that system there. And I forgot who was A&R. I think it was Bimmy. And Bimmy was like, or one of them was like, well, do you want to do a voiceover on the Def Jam game? I said, yeah. Me and my manager, Eat 'em Up at the time, we both on that Def Jam Vendetta. as voice. I forgot which one I did because it was such a long time ago. But I didn't know that it was going to turn out that iconic because that was the very first Def Jam game. And I still get a royalty to this day from that as well.
I remember actually snagging myself a copy of that video game for a GameCube back in the day, and it was such a revolutionary game because it's just so different.
Yeah, it was the first of many, and I still think it was one of the best. Though.
I just couldn't believe that you could be like someone like Snoop Dogg and like kick another rapper's ass. I don't know, it was just one of those very unique type of games. I loved it.
Right, definitely.
And also, as well, the following year in 2003, you actually had the opportunity to actually produce Jules Santana's song titled Dipset Santana's Town. I was wondering if you can actually tell us a bit more about that production credit. And of course, what was it like just working with Jules Santana and Dipset actually in the studio?
Well, I did the one that's called Santana's Town, the Dipset Anthem. There's two of them. A lot of people get them mixed up, but the one that where Cameron is doing the chorus, Dipset, and they shot the video in Miami here too. Yeah, that was a placement. I had a studio in Sound on Sound Studios in Manhattan, and they worked out of one second. They worked out of the same studio, and I had a room in that studio, and we got kind of cool. Me and Cam got cool because I worked on Cam's actually first album, the SDE. I did That's Me on his album and the Chicken Heads record. So me and him got cool, and my studio was in Harlem. As a matter of fact, yeah, we met in Harlem, but my Sound studio, we did that there, and we did that in the studio. It was a lot of people in there. Dipset moved with a lot of people. And then I actually had a relationship, too, with Jules Santana when he was with a group called Draft Picks. I believe it was on Priority Records way before he became Dipset. So that's how that placement happened as well.
And I gotta
like
say,
I said, I've been blessed to have a lot of placements, man. A lot.
And when you actually said you actually did that production credit for That's Me, I gotta say, such a phenomenal song, man. That was like my anthem back in the day, man. Such a phenomenal joint.
Yeah, he says my name at the end of it, too. At the end of that record.
And also, as well, aside from like, you know, production and whatnot, in the year 2010, you actually partnered up with Omar White to actually start up True Sound Mediaplex. I was wondering if you can actually tell our listeners a bit more about that partnership, and of course, what exactly do you guys do over at True Sound?
Well, True Sound, back in True Sound was the start of a lot of things, man. We had so many people come through there. It was a multimedia studio, one of the first multimedia studios where we had a top-of-the-line recording studio, a top-of-the-line film, a green screen, white screen psych wall, where we threw events and parties, and it was a lot of video work there. We had Love and Hip Hop filmed there, a lot of reality shows when they first started. We talking about back in 2012 and stuff like that, and they was coming through my facility to use the facility. A lot of people from Cardi B to a lot of rappers, Fred the Godson. Everybody from Harlem and the Bronx was coming through that studio at the time, and me and Omar had the studio for 5 years straight. And then we decided to just part ways from there, and from there, like, that really was the start of my film career, dealing with True Sound. It was a great experience, and everybody loved it there. Everybody. Top of the line situation there.
And I also saw as well that you actually were the producer for the pilot episode of Empire City back in 2013. I was wondering if you can actually tell us a bit more about that experience, and of course, was it actually different going from music producing to actually film producing?
Well, actually, in True Sound, the guy that did the series, his studio was below our studio at True Sound Lounge. We was in the industrial district in the Bronx, up on 135th in the Brook now. And we was in industrial building, but the guy, he was in the studio below us, and we became good friends. So we had the film, and he had the camera gear. We had the studio, so we all came together and did the series, which was a success for a second. And then, just going from music to film, that's when I really got the bug to go into the film thing, because the music thing wasn't like it was in the 90s at the time. The 90s, I feel like, was a era where more authenticity was happening, so you got paid a little bit better in the 90s. And when I started seeing things going a different way, I said, well, I need to make a transition, but still stay in the entertainment and use my relationships from my music to move into film. So when I really looked at it from editing to filming, it's still the same concept as making beats. Like on Pro Tools also does video, So if you know how to read graphs and know how to do time and all the rest of that, it's the exact same concept with video edit. So what I did was start my transition from that actual series and that studio in True Sound. And then from there, I moved to Atlanta, opened up another studio like True Sound Lounge, and from there I sold a lot of my music equipment and bought film equipment. And then that was the start of my film career at that point. But it's easy. It's the exact same concept to me as music.
And I also saw as well via Instagram, that you were actually a part of the soundtrack called The Last Growl. That's actually DMX's final movie appearance on the movie Dogman. I was wondering if you can actually tell our listeners a bit more about this up-and-coming project. And of course, what can we expect not only from the movie, but also the soundtrack when it does get released to the general public?
Well, the Dogman movie is the last movie DMX had a major role in before his untimely demise. Rest in peace, X. We got majority of his things filmed. The film director and producer, his name is Antonio Simmons, and he called me with the project and said he would like for me to be the executive producer for the score and the soundtrack of the whole movie. So I said, gladly, I'll do that. And at this point, we still, and I'm also hands-on inside the film production part as well. Me and Antonio are great friends and great partners. And guaranteed, you ain't going to hear nothing but heat on that Dogman soundtrack and the movie. Because I'm actually doing the score, the soundtrack, the score and the soundtrack. So, if you know anything about my production, anybody does, I'm a little unorthodox, even from, the type of music I do, but I could do some of everything. But I really see this Dogman project as my baby because I get to do the score and the soundtrack, and I'm really going to show out on this project. Like, I'm going to make everybody realize, I'm one of their favorite producers.
And I gotta say, me personally, I'm definitely looking forward to this particular project. And if you don't mind me asking, because obviously, you've been working on the project and whatnot, and I know this might be a sensitive question, but obviously DMX didn't get the opportunity to film the entire movie before his passing. How did you guys actually, kind of not replace X, but kind of like fit him in throughout the whole movie if he didn't get the opportunity to finish it? Did you guys use CGI technology?
Yes, we're using CGI technology. We got somebody as close looking to X as possible, but we have CGI experts, a company that's doing all the CGI for the face work, so the parts we don't have left. Now, the movie should be done by the end of this year. We go back into filming. We started back filming like 2 weeks ago, but we're filming here in Miami in another week or two. And then I'm constantly working on the score and soundtrack. But the CGI work is definitely involved, like the same way they did, they said Nipsey Hussle, remember that hologram type of thing? But we got the CGI people to put DMX's face on somebody else. But that's how we're finishing up the project. So we have the majority of X real acting and everything else in the movie. It's just a few more pieces that we need the CGI work for.
But also, other than, of course, your movie work and, of course, working on DMX's last film, what is next for yourself, self-service, man? Is there anything we had the opportunity, anything we happen to miss, anything else you do still want to have the opportunity to talk about or promote? Well, we still got you here live on 97.7 FM this evening.
Well, I am working on an NFT drop, the best of self-service drop coming soon. I can't talk too much about it, but I am working on an NFT project, and I'm working on a movie that I'm producing, my second movie. I did one movie called The Third Wish, is on Amazon Prime right now, but I'm working on my own movie, this summer, starting this summer. It's going to be a comedy. I can't say the name yet, but it's going to be very funny. Just remember the lines of like Friday and how Q did Friday. But it's here based out of Miami. It's a simple concept and everything, but I really think people are going to love the fact of that. So it's the NFT and my next movie, my comedy movie.
And also, self-service, it's the time in the interview, man, that I give a chance for the individual that does slide into the radio station airwaves. Just a chance to give, shout-outs to whomever they want to give shout-outs to, but most of all, your social media handles. That way our listeners can follow you and stay updated on everything you got going on if they're not already doing so.
All right, well, you can find me on Instagram at Super Producer Self, all one word, at it's Super Producer Self. That's my personal page, and then I have my music production page. I forgot the name of it. Let me get the name of it. It is Self-Service Zone, all one word, Self-Service Zone, where I have beats and everything on there. But you got to get approved to get into that page. It's for serious inquiries only. If somebody want to buy a beat from me, they inbox me, and then I go ahead and give them access to it after we work out the particulars. But that's my beat page. My film production page is at ELPD Media on Instagram. My website, where all this information is on, is www.elpd Eddie Larry Paul David, ELPDProductions.com. ELPDProductions.com, where you find everything about me that's getting ready to come up, that's going on, everything about my history, my discography, my accolades, everything.
And I gotta say, self-service, thank you so much, man, for just giving us a bit of your time here this evening, talking about some of the amazing projects that you had the opportunity to work on. I know we only touched base on literally, I think, 1%, even if that, of your iconic career here this evening, man. But thank you so much for your time this evening.
No problem. Thank you very much for having me, man. And stay looking out for me, man. I got a lot going on this year.
Hey, man, most definitely. Anytime you want to come back on the radio station, decide. Let me know on my DM, man. We can definitely set something up, man. I definitely appreciate you, and we definitely shall talk soon. Thank you so much again, Self-Service.
Thank you, bro. Good night.